All right. So hi, everyone. Welcome to week 2, Careers in Public Service. I'm Beth Schill. I'm the Senior Manager for Careers in Public Service at the Colley Career Education Center. And I'm also joined again this week by Tina Gaddy.
Hello, I'm Tina Gaddy. I'm the Assistant Director for Undergraduate Professional Development in the School of Foreign Service.
And what we're going to talk about today, it's a high-level overview of working for the federal government. And by that, we mean primarily the executive branch. All right. If at any point you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat, and Tina and I will do our best to keep an eye on that and answer those as we go along. All right. So today we're going to talk about why are you interested in a career in the administration? Because that is essentially what the executive branch is. It's working at the pleasure of the president. We're going to break down the basics of like what the difference is between appointed positions versus civil service positions and what that means and what you might be looking at. And then the big thing we're going to be going through are resources and how to begin your exploration and how to kind of make sense of the website that is USAJobs, which is the primary portal for most jobs in this field. We will talk a little bit about intelligence community jobs and security clearances, as that is also part of this branch of government. But we won't spend a ton of time on it, but we will at least touch on it and help point you in the direction of more resources if you're interested in those areas as well. Okay. All right, so why are you interested in a career in the administrations? A big thing to understand is that there are basically two different types of roles in an administration. That is, there's the appointed positions, which you are probably still hearing a lot about in the news, people being appointed to secretaries, deputy secretaries, assistant deputy secretaries, ambassadors, and so on and so forth. So we're going to talk about kind of what that looks like. But then the primary thing that we'll spend our time talking about today is being a member of the civil service and talking about the difference between what we call competitive service, the accepted service, and then the intelligence sector. All right. So a quick overview of the political appointee process is there's approximately 4,000 presidentially appointed jobs, and they're divided into 3 categories. We have presidentially appointed and Senate confirmed positions. We have presidential appointments not requiring Senate confirmation. And these are a lot of like some of the special assistant to the president type roles that you hear about. Non-career senior executive service. So these are senior level executives within an agency, but they've not been at an agency forever. And then Schedule C appointees who report to other appointees. For most of you on the call, if you were interested in becoming an appointed position, you'd be looking at what are called Schedule C appointments. These other categories are generally folks who are either like subject matter experts in your field. So like you've probably heard of a couple Georgetown professors being plucked for the new administration, or they're folks who have been in public service for a while and they get appointed. So sometimes this happens with some ambassadorships. You have someone who's been a civil servant within the State Department for 30 plus years, and they get tapped and asked to do an ambassador program. Just to give you kind of a breakdown of what the numbers look like. So like I said, presidential appointments requiring Senate confirmation, there's about 1,200 of those. There's approximately 400 not requiring Senate confirmation. There's 700 or so non-career senior executives, and then about 1,500 Schedule C appointees. So it's the largest block of appointees. And also these numbers vary from administration to administration. So, President Biden has appointed a number of people to help address issues going on with the coronavirus. Hopefully whenever the next administration starts, whether that's in, 2 years or 6 years, hopefully we won't need those positions anymore. So they wouldn't necessarily be included in a number count. Real quick, to understand like where you can find out more about presidentially appointed positions, there's something called the Plum Book, and this is published every 4 years at the end of an administration, and it is a summary of all presidentially appointed positions. So the one that everybody's using right now was published in December of 2020. And it reflects the Trump administration and it reflects the Trump administration priorities, especially for some of these senior appointed positions that aren't Senate confirmed. And to that end, like I said before, these positions vary. So the the Plum Book itself is static, but the jobs themselves are very dynamic. Where you can find it, I'm gonna bring it up real quick so you can see what it looks like. It can be found through the Government Printing Office's website, and it's a public document. And they have a number of years here. So what you can do is you can either download the entire Plum Book, which is a huge document, or you can look at like some of the different details. So like, who are some of the folks appointed in the legislative branch? Who are some of the folks appointed in the executive office of the president? And then they break it down by department. So let's say you're interested in understanding education policy. We can check out the details of like the Department of Education. And like I said, here, what you're looking at, these are the type of appointments. So Senate confirmed, presidentially appointed, that's presidentially appointed, Senate confirmed. And we are looking for Schedule C. That's this SC, which is Schedule C appointees. So when you're looking at a lot of the titles, they're special assistants, confidential assistants. And what this means for like something in the Department of Education is a lot of you, if you're an undergraduate, you'd be looking for these appointments that are at like a GS7 level, maybe for graduate students, a GS9 level. And this, again, it shows you who the incumbent was in December of 2020. Obviously, there'll be new people here under the Biden administration. And we do have a question. Would the Plum Book show potential internships with these departments? No, they will not. And that's something that we'll get to. And that's where the difference is. I'm glad you asked that. That's a good question. These are just presidentially appointed positions. What we're going to spend the majority of our time talking about today are the civil service positions, which are the ones that are, most of you will tend to get. But this is just something because it is on some folks' mind. And usually, quite frankly, you get these through political connections. You get these by being really involved in the campaign for whoever's in the office. Is very, if you're being considered often. They come to you. You don't really, there's nowhere to really apply. There's a portal that the Biden administration uses. Like if you just go to the whitehouse.gov and they say, join our team, you can put your resume in there, but it is a giant, massive black hole. So, I say that with, unless someone's looking out for you on the other side. That's appointed positions. All right, now to the big parts, civil service positions, which gets into like kind of the internship questions. With this, a lot of what you want to consider are, what are your values, or what are the issues that you're passionate about exploring? And then to that point, the next thing is, what is your connection to the mission of an agency? Now, I will say something here that I want you all to pay attention to. When we speak about mission of an agency, I'm not talking high level like Department of State, yay, diplomacy is great, etc. Or Department of Defense, yeah, we're going to defend the national interests of the United States and the people who live here. I'm talking the specific missions of the different departments within an agency and how they help support that broader mission. And I'll show you a little bit about how to discover that. Another thing that can kind of help you understand missions of agencies is just kind of paying attention to the news, understanding what are the current political trends, what are areas that are seeing a lot of federal spending right now. So public health is definitely one of them. We're seeing more in like poverty reduction and education, infrastructure. They're debating that huge infrastructure bill on the House right now. You better believe that agencies are going to get a lot of funding from that infrastructure bill should it pass. So paying attention to like what's going on in the news as it relates to politics and governance, because that tells you basically where the money is going. Where the money goes, the jobs follow. It's as true for government as it is for any other industry. So, all right. Okay, so one way that you can find information about an agency is through this site called the Best Places to Work in the Federal Government. And this is a survey that goes out every year to federal employees, and they respond back saying basically how much they'd like to or not like to work for their agency. If we're looking at the full rankings, oh, no, I am not going to subscribe. If you look at the full rankings, when it comes to understanding the mission of agencies, it's important to know that like it's divided into large, mid-sized, small agency, and agency subcomponents. So let's say, to the point I was making earlier about really understanding the mission of the individual organizations. All right, so let's say the Department of Commerce. All right, what is the Department of Commerce's mission? Okay, it's listed right here: to ensure fair and secure trade, provide data to support commerce and foster innovation, conducting foundational research and development. And you can go to their website and see more, which I recommend you doing. But what I wanted to show you all is looking at this button where it says view agency subcomponents, because these are all different offices, and it's not a complete list of all the offices in the Department of Commerce, but these are some of the different parts of an organization that help support. So the reason I picked commerce is because there's some kind of cool agencies that make up Department of Commerce. So like NOAA, the National Weather Service, if you're interested in understanding, weather trends, or they're studying global warming and its effect on, our livelihood, NOAA's under the Department of Commerce. The U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, it's one of the best places to work in the federal government. If you're interested in helping support scientific innovation, working as a patent lawyer could be kind of cool. The International Trade Administration, so the group that's in charge of helping to promote our efforts in international trade. These are all different parts of the Department of Commerce. So while you might be thinking, Department of Commerce doesn't sound very exciting, some of the different organizations within it are really cool. I've known some students who are econ majors really into the Bureau of Economic Analysis, the Census Bureau. If you like data, I mean, the census, the stuff they do with the numbers that they do in every census is amazing. They have so much information there. So if you're interested in data and trying to understand pretty much anything that government does, the US Census Bureau is a great place. So what you can do is you can click on this. You can see the mission of the agency. So census to be the nation's leading provider of data about its people and its economy. And then what you can do is you can go then directly to that part of the agency, the census's website, and find out more there. So when we're talking about identifying the mission, this is where you really get into the meat. And this is where I highly suggest that you go beyond just I want to work at state, or I want to work at FBI, or I want to work at another 3-letter agency, and really try and dig deep into what they're reporting out on, what are things that they have, what's being said about them in the news. All right, so that's best places to work. We're going to come back to that a little bit later too. All right, so gathering information and exploring federal career options. I also apologize if I'm talking quickly. There's a lot of information to cover. So if I need to slow down, just let me know. The big thing is, and some of you may be aware of this, but federal hiring is very different from every other career field, and it's covered by a lot of different laws. Really the intent of these laws is a good one. It's to help make the federal government as diverse as its people that it represents. So really the intent is to try and get the best people into these jobs, regardless of background or school or who you know or what you know. It's really trying to get the best people into the jobs. How that has played out over 50 years since some of these laws were put into place is that it can be incredibly bureaucratic. There's a lot of things that you have to do. A lot of the wording in federal position descriptions doesn't really make sense. And it becomes this kind of maze that can deter a lot of students. But the work you do on the opposite end of this is really incredible work. So try not to let the process for federal hiring dissuade you from applying. So we're going to talk a little bit about what competitive versus accepted service is. We're going to go through USAJobs and kind of how to read a job description, and then cover some very well-known hiring paths for current students and recent graduates. Okay. So the competitive service, this is about 80% of federal jobs, does not really apply to the intelligence sector and some Defense Department jobs, but you have to go through a competitive hiring process, which is open to all applicants before you get selected for the job. And again, this is where they try and get the best people for the job. The accepted service is when agencies have their own qualification requirements and hiring processes. This is where the intelligence community comes into play. We also see this now in specific fields where the government really, really needs people. So folks who are into cybersecurity, whether that's through computer science or different engineering degrees. There's accepted service there. There's other hiring routes like what they call contract managers, which are in every agency, and they help run all the various government contracts. There's a need for that. So there's accelerated hiring there. And then from time to time, we see accepted services. So like when the coronavirus outbreak was started, right on the homepage of USAJobs, it was like basically like, hey, if you're a doctor or a nurse and you want to come work for the federal government, click here. Because they were really trying to increase their ranks of people who understand and could work in different capacities as in a public health emergency. So from time to time, you will see that happen. Okay, but most of what we talk through and most of what I see working with students is competitive service. All right, so USAJobs, this is your main portal. This is a screenshot taken from the usajobs.gov website. I'm going to actually switch to the this website because I think it's cooler to just kind of walk through it than show you screenshots. So this is a home page. I'm not going to log in or anything, but I'm going to show you a couple tricks. At some point, if you're interested, you do want to create a profile in USAJobs, but at this point, I'm just going to show you some tips and tricks. All right, so if you create a USAJobs profile, you can save searches kind of like you do on Handshake or LinkedIn or any other. You can upload resumes and documents. You can make your resume searchable and then apply for jobs. I've never known someone who's had a recruiter reach out to them using the searchable tool, but it doesn't hurt. What I wanted to point out today is I'm just scrolling down on this website. I'm not doing anything fancy. If you are a student or a recent grad and you're just here for the first time and you're like, I don't even know where to start, I advise you to look down at this Explore Hiring Paths. And these are different ways that you can get into federal hiring. And you can see some of them are jobs open to the public. If you're a veteran, you have certain hiring preferences. If you're National Guard or Reserves, if you're a current federal employee or military spouse, if you're an American Indian or an Alaskan Native, if you're a Peace Corps or AmeriCorps alumni, the key thing, if you go work for the Peace Corps or AmeriCorps for a period of service, you have special hiring authorities when you are finished with that term of service. It's one of their benefits. If you have a disability, these are all different things. But what we're going to talk about today is students and recent graduates. Ta-da! So I'm going to click on that. Okay, right here, it talks a little bit about the Pathways program, which I will cover in a little bit later in the program. But what I wanted to show you is if you keep scrolling down, there's a lot of information here on the different programs, which, like I said, we'll go over. But if you keep going down, read this all at some point. I'm not going to read it right now because it'd be really boring. But if you go at begin your search, like let's say we're looking for internships for the winter semester. If you just click this internship jobs, USAJobs automatically filters for everything that's open to current students. And you can see right now, there are 313 internships available posted on USAJobs. And really what you're looking for is anywhere where there's a book icon, that means it's open to current students. This little cap icon means it's open to anyone who has graduated within the last 2 years. For everyone except veterans have up to 6 years from their point of graduation. I will go back to this in a few minutes. All right. Okay, so explore hiring paths, students and recent graduates. All right, Pathways programs. You may have heard about these. Now, the cool thing about Pathways programs is they do kind of what the name suggests. It is a path into the federal government. It's not a guaranteed path, but it is about as close to a guarantee as you can get. Just note that there are lots of federal government internships that aren't Pathways programs, but all Pathways jobs are internships or for recent graduates. So there's a couple different parts of this. There's the internship program, which is for current students, the recent graduate program, and then for any master's students on the line, the presidential management fellowships, which I believe will be opening very soon. So for internship, you have to be a current student, and that means that next semester, or when you are doing the program or the semester after you complete the program, you are enrolled in a university. It allows you to explore different career paths. Like I said, must be currently enrolled, and it's eligible for full-time hire at the end. We'll get back to that. The recent graduate program, it can be for bachelor's or graduate degree, goes on up to PhD and includes law degrees and MBAs as well. It's 40 hours training and development, and you get a mentor, and you have to be within 2 years of degree or certification completion. All right. And also at the end, you're eligible for full-time hire. The Presidential Management Fellows, or also PMF, is you have to be in an advanced degree when you apply, usually like your second year. It's 80 hours of training and development, a mentor, and the idea is you go to an agency and you are rotated over the course of 2 years to different positions within the agency. And it gives you a really good sense of what your opportunities are. And when you're done with the program, you graduate or you get into hiring at a higher level. PMFs are very competitive, but very well regarded. Actually, they all are. But so what do we mean by eligible for full-time hire? It means that within 120 days of the completion of your internship program, you have the opportunity to what is called convert to a full-time job. A few big caveats is, one, there has to be a job for you to jump into. And this is where a lot of students do face problems is, funding for an agency might be cut back and there's nowhere for you to jump into full-time. Or there might not be an opening within your specific office that you're working in which case you can go government wide. So let's say you get an internship, pathways internship with the State Department, and you really want to stay, but nothing's open. Well, you can go to any other agency where the appropriate level of hire is for you and jump into a full-time position within that 120-day block. The other thing to note is that where this gets tricky is if you do, let's say you're a junior and you intern next semester, you either have to continue in that internship program, but like you can't convert your junior year and then like sit on it for a year until you graduate. So it's within that 120-day period. So where this is helpful is some of these programs, once you're in, you can continue to intern for like, a couple semesters. So I know quite a few students who get something their junior year and do it the rest of the time that they're in school. And then when they graduate, they get a full-time hire. Or it's really helpful in like senior year or just after you graduate. Again, it's not a guarantee, but it's close. Okay. Again, ways to find a job. If we go back to what we were looking at in the best places to work rankings, I'm going to go back to like the overview. In the chat, can anybody put down an agency that you're interested in learning more about? And we'll go ahead and use that. Or a field, like something you're interested in exploring. Okay, we'll just go with Department of Justice. All right. All right, so let's click on Justice, Department of Justice. All right, so what does this tell you? One, it gives you the mission of the department and subcomponents. What you also see here is like their engagement score. So you can see that from last year to this year, they're still in like a yellow ranking, but their engagement score went up, which is always good. You always want to see someone going up. Then they break it down by category. So like people, like what they think of their leadership, what they think of their mission match. So like Department of Justice, people really believe they're connected to the mission. So that's really good. Pay, so much. Teamwork, innovation, they're not as high as others, but you can see kind of where they ranked overall. And then they have a special section now on like COVID support, and that's actually pretty good. And then you see trends, and then you also have information on the workforce and the demographics. So if this is something that's interested to you when we talk about race and diversity and inclusion, or gender and how they look at that, you can see kind of what you're dealing with. So that's just information there. But then if we were going to go to, let's see, sorry, I'm jumping around, but view agency subcomponents. All right, and let's say we're looking to try and find a job. Oh, let's see, Civil Rights Division. Let's just check that out. All right, so here it's saying to uphold the civil and constitutional rights of all Americans, particularly some of the most vulnerable members of our society. And so what you can do is you can click on their website And you can see information here about this particular department within justice. You can see who the Assistant Attorney General is. You can find out more about the division. I will say the Department of, and then over here it says Department of Justice Access Action Center, and you can say, click, get a job. Okay, we'll see. Okay, so then it says more about employment opportunities within the Civil Rights Division. So right here, we can read about what they have. And sometimes on here, they may have links to current openings. I will just say, I don't know why this is. The Department of Justice doesn't have the best website. Some other agencies do a better job. So it's harder to find opportunities. You can go to the career tabs and look at legal careers, veteran recruitment, disability hiring. If you're looking at legal careers, now this is going back to like the broad Department of Justice, not the division that we were just looking at. So here are like, you can look at volunteer legal intern opportunities. A lot within the Department of Justice is aimed at law school students, but not everything. But you can also see over here, you can look for any position. So you can see a lot of them is like law student volunteer. So that's one thing to just keep in mind. Look, they have a recruitment event for current lawyers. So that's the Department of Justice. I'm gonna go try and find another organization that some students are interested in, because it shows kind of how you can use this to find jobs. I'm just gonna search for it. Okay. So international development. These are a lot of organizations that students are interested in. I just Googled, or I just looked in their search, the development. You can see Economic Development Administration, Office of Research Development, U.S. Agency for International Development, U.S. International Development Finance Corporation. I'm going to click on this because this is actually kind of a cool agency. International trade. Yep. This kind of is getting into international trade, so we can check it out. So here, okay, the mission of the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation: to partner with private sector to finance solutions for the most critical challenges facing the developing world today. All right, we're going to click on that link, and ta-da, we are on their website. Now you can see, we just looked at Justice Department, and now we're looking at the DFC, and you can see there's a big difference in the quality of the web pages. So this agency has an amazing web page. So what you can do here is, one, yes, read about what do they do? What do they work in? What are some of the areas that they look at that might be interesting to you? What are their priorities? Usually you'll find careers in one of two places. It's either going to be down here at the bottom where you see who we are, or sometimes it might be across the top in one of the tabs. So what you can do is you can click on careers and you can learn about what they're looking for. Right here, they say view current vacancies. A lot of agencies have this. Justice Department is one of the agencies that doesn't have it, but a lot of other agencies have this on their website where it says view current vacancies, or sometimes they even say view current internship opportunities. And if you click that, what it does is it takes you directly to USAJobs and it filters for the agency for their jobs. So, hey, look at what we have here. Why, we have a whole lot of internships. Pretty cool. So we'll get into this in a minute. We're going to go through, how do you read a job description in USAJobs? All right. So just want to make sure that I'm not missing anything else. All right. So when you're applying for agencies, you want to identify positions that you're interested in. And just like any other job, you want to try and find ones that you are best qualified for. Okay, you could think like Department of Justice is a great example. They do amazing work, but if all they're hiring for is law school students, unless you're a law school student, it's going to be hard to find an opportunity. Not that you can't, not that there's not opportunities out there, but it's going to be that much harder. You're going to modify and upload your federal resume. We'll talk in depth about a federal resume in the last session in the series, which I believe will be the first week of November. And we'll talk about now what completing an application and a questionnaire looks like. All right. I'm sorry, I'm fighting off a sneeze. All right. So understanding a job announcement. And I'll go through this in real time using one of the examples we were looking at before. So let me escape. Sorry, I'm trying not to sneeze. All right, so here we are. All right, so this is the Development Finance Corporation. I'm going to pick this socially responsible investment internship because I know a lot of you folks are into like social impact and social investment, profit for good, that kind of thing. So what you see now are the opening and closing dates. When you see something like this, that's like starts in 1 year and ends in the next year, it means that this is a rolling application, and they tend to have deadlines at different points. So it will be sometime soon for the next semester. So you'll apply approximately ahead of time. So if you were to apply for this now, you'd be applying for it for the winter semester. It shows you here that it's competitive. So when we talk about the process that you have to go through, it's telling you right here, it's competitive versus accepted. Pay scale and grade. This one, it's telling you right up front, it's an unpaid opportunity. All right. Sometimes you can see if they do pay a salary. You can see that here. All right. It's showing you it's many vacancies in the Washington, D.C. area. This is something to be careful for because the government's all over the country. So some agencies have like different locations. So you just want to watch that. They have a video, watch this stuff. So then what you're looking at is you're looking at the summary. You're working with seasoned financiers in the loan origination process, underwriting, due diligence, et cetera, et cetera. You're looking at finding socially responsible investors in impact sectors, and providing debt financing to different levels of organizations in a foreign country. So this can tell you a little bit. And then what you want to look down at is requirements. Conditions of employment. U.S. citizenship is required. Must be currently enrolled or accepted for enrollment in an accredited college or university. And you have to be suitable for employment by background investigation. And then for most males, you have to be registered with the Selective Service unless you're exempt. Qualifications. This is where some agencies can be really broad or they can be really specific. So this one, they're saying you must be enrolled part-time in a college or graduate program. Check. The ideal candidate should have an undergraduate or graduate level academic concentration in business, international development, economics, or finance. Okay, so this is very, very broad. And how will you be evaluated? On the qualifications above. So this particular description is really, really, really broad. And then down here, it also shows you to apply, you must have a federal resume, and in this case, an unofficial transcript. So that is kind of how you read this. Sometimes under qualifications, it will be really specific and it will say something like, you must have 30 credit hours of computer science or 1 year of experience doing work at this level. And what that means is, for some of, I'd say, especially the STEM positions or some of your more quantitative heavy, so like econometric analysis, those kinds of positions, like Treasury or some of the other agencies related to banking and financing, they want to see either a certain amount of credit hours in an area or that you've done some of this work. And that can be through internships or volunteer or like working at, Georgetown, the student credit union. That all counts. But sometimes those qualifications can be specific. And that's where they do use your transcript to make sure you have credit hours, or they will look at your resume for specific examples. All right. And I saw a question about an internship for a seasoned professional. If you're within 2 years of graduating from a degree, even if say you've got like 20 years experience doing something else, but you use what you're getting your degree in at Georgetown as a pivot point, yeah, you can apply for a recent graduate position for up to 2 years post-graduation. So as long as you're within that window of 2 years, whether you're 22 or you're 52 and you're finishing up a master's program or a PhD program, it doesn't matter. So that was a good question. And internships are a great way in for a full-time job. All right, so you might have seen something on there at the position we were looking at called GS, and then the position we were looking at, it said GS 00. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, if it's been 4 years since your MA, then the internships programs aren't necessarily open to you at this time, but you can, a lot of this is still gonna apply. So if you're looking at grades, I get a lot of questions from students like, what is the appropriate grade to look at? And this gives you a sense. For most undergraduates, you're looking at a GS5 level, which is 4 academic years above high school, leading to a bachelor's degree or a completed bachelor's degree. And then a GS7 is you have one of the following. You're in the upper third of the graduating class, you have a 3.0 or higher overall GPA or a 3.5 higher GPA in your major, or you have an honor society membership. So undergrads, you're looking at GS5, GS7. GS9 is appropriate for those of you who are graduating with a master's degree. GS11 is graduating with a doctoral degree. If you have experience beyond that, it's just going to depend on how much experience you have in that role. All right. So we already went through kind of how to look through this. All right. So understanding applying, sometimes you have what's called an occupational questionnaire, and usually at some point in the posting, they'll let you know if they have it. And sometimes they even let you preview what the questions are. This is kind of just a stopgap to make sure that what you put on your resume is in fact the amount of information, the amount of experience that you've had. Sometimes, like this example that I'm looking at right now, it's very basics. Do you claim veterans preference? Are you a student? Like, where do you want to live? Like, it's asking you where you want to live, like which location you would want. It usually asks if you're a male, if you're in the selective service. So sometimes it's just that simple. Like, yes, I am who I say I am. Sometimes these questions get a little more involved. So again, this happens a lot with STEM degrees or specific backgrounds where it says, how often have you used SPSS, for example? One option is I've never used it, I'm not familiar with it. The next option is I've learned about it in class. The third is like I've learned about it in class and applied it in class projects. I've used it occasionally on my job. I use it regularly on my job, and like I am the subject matter to be all subject matter. So it's like a 5 or 6 point scale, depending on the question. You don't want to sell yourself short, but you always want to be truthful. So, I always tell students, if they are using, if you have skills that are relatable, maybe it's not the exact skill that you're looking for, but it's relatable, give yourself the benefit of the doubt, but just know that they are going to ask you about it, and you're going to have to be able to back up everything, whether it's on your resume or it's in answering the questions. You have to back it up with proof. So you don't want to lie. I know some people say, oh, just go for the highest one so that you get into the system, but you don't want to get caught lying on a federal application. It's actually a violation of federal law, which is not cool. And I don't want any of you to be stuck in that position either. All right, I'm going to pause there, check our questions. Anyone have any questions at the moment? Okay, cool. So the next thing, just real quick, I want to talk a little bit about the intelligence community, because I know that's a big area that students are interested in. Often within the intelligence community, you're not using USAJobs. You're going directly to the website of the agency, cia.gov/careers, fbi.gov/careers. There's a couple websites that I have linked at the end of the presentation. One is called intelligence.gov. That's a great overview of the intelligence community. The other is intelligencecareers.gov, which is for 5 of the intelligence agencies. But really what you want to do is go to the agency in question, go to their careers tab and read as much as you can. Those websites are going to be about as much information as you can get. It's in fact, like in talking to like our CIA or our FBI recruiter, they can't tell you any more information than what's on the website. So reading the website is just about as good as talking to a recruiter. So it's like, it's as much information as they're allowed to share. They often also have different resume and writing requirements. I had mentioned earlier a federal resume, which is something we will cover in another session, but most intelligence agencies are looking for something between a normal resume, like a one-page resume, and a federal resume, which can be 5 to 6 pages for an undergraduate or a graduate student. They're looking for something in between. Typically, I've heard one page front and back, but they are usually very specific. So FBI is typically one page, CIA is 2, and other agencies in the intelligence community differ. It is maybe for obvious reasons. I think it's obvious reason. Maybe it's not something you considered before, but it's more difficult to network because, I can't say, hey, Georgetown community, guess what? I just got hired to be a recruiter with the CIA. I'm going to know the names and dates and information of all our future intelligence officers. Woohoo! No, I can't do that. So I think, it's difficult to network. I will say quite a number of our professors do have experience in this world. Some of them are able to talk about it, some of them are not. But our professors, if they haven't served within the intelligence field, they may know other people who have. So that can be a great place. I also put down one of my favorite folks in this community who's a retired officer from the CIA. Her name's Carmen Medina. I put her Twitter handle down here. She's able to talk to a certain extent about her career at the CIA. She talks a lot about what it was like to be a female Latina back in the early 70s when she started, when it was like an all white male organization, and does a lot of really interesting work in the culture of different agencies and how you are innovative. We also have this really cool Intel 101 video that we did last spring. And we'll send out this afterwards, but there's a lot of, as we call it, Intelligence Community Unplugged. And in it, the presenter, Michael Cassidy, who does some coaching with the SFS Graduate Center, he gives a really good high-level overview of some of the different agencies within the intelligence community. So those are some resources. The other thing to think about is a security clearance. All right, so what agencies typically need a security clearance? Generally, any agency you're looking at requires at least what's called a public trust. And this is basically a background check, making sure you don't have hundreds of unpaid parking tickets, that you're in good standing, that you don't have an outstanding arrest warrant or anything like that. There's sometimes drug tests involved depending on the agency, but it's basically you are who you say you are. For some parts of State Department, DoD, definitely intelligence, and a few pockets in other agencies, you have higher levels of secret clearances necessary. There's just a general clearance, secret clearance, top secret clearance with a poly, and a few other distinctions. These are the ones you may hear from your classmates that have tripped them up. This is what often takes a long time in the hiring process. But what you want to do is, if you are looking at the intelligence or DoD world, you want to start gathering relevant information now. What types of information? They want to know where you've lived for the last 7 years, and they want the name of one American citizen at each location that can vouch for your character. So start thinking about, doesn't necessarily have to be roommates. It can't be parents and it can't be spouses, but you want to start thinking about who could vouch for you at different locations. Be smart and curb your bad habits now. Pot is a federally illegal substance. So if you have smoked pot in the past, usually there's a 1 year period where they want you to have not smoked pot. So think about the last time you smoked pot. Make sure it's been at least a year. Some agencies require more time. Agencies that deal with drugs, like the Drug Enforcement Administration and different parts of the FBI, have a never. You can have never used an illegal substance to work for them, which kind of makes sense given their mission. The other thing that can be under here is misuse of prescription drugs. So if you've ever popped an Adderall to stay up late studying and you do not have a prescription for it. If you have a prescription for it, totally fine. But if you're using it to try and stay up late, don't do it anymore. Just get yourself a pot of coffee or a pot of tea and stay up using that. You want to try and stay out of debt. and or diligently replace it. So a lot of you have student debt right now. That's okay. What you want to do is make sure that you're paying your credit cards on time, you're paying down your credit cards, and then when you graduate, that yeah, if you have student loans or you have a mortgage or you have, a card, you bought a car and you're doing car payments, you just need to make sure you don't have excessive amounts of debt and you're making your payments on time and you're paying it down. Because what do foreign adversaries look like for? They look for people who can be taken advantage of, and oftentimes debt or a gambling problem is a big thing. The other thing that brings up, I forgot, we heard this just recently. Stop any illegal downloading. Back when I was in school, Napster was like a brand new technology. And it turned out to be super illegal. But when I was in college, nobody thought about it. We were all just like, oh, hey, cool, I can like download all this music. It was all super new. And so downloading music, I also know now too, you can download like textbooks and stuff for free without having to pay fees. That is also on the no list. So anything where you download something where you ought to be paying for it, but you're not, just stop it now. And if you have any questions, you can always feel free to reach out to me or to other career coaches on campus. But yeah, you just got to be smart and keep your nose clean. Also, if any of you are under 21, yeah, be careful with alcohol use because it's technically illegal. So you just want to be able to, answer questions honestly. And that's the big thing, is you have to be completely honest when you're doing a security clearance. Don't think they're not going to find out about this one time that you got a minor in possession, because they will. And be honest when you're answering questions. That's what this process is intended to find out. And again, you're not going to like get in trouble. It's just they want to know if there's anything that can be used against you that can blackmail you. So usually it's not so much the what you did, it's I've known students who have passed because they've lied and they've been caught in their lies. All right. Okay. So security clearance. Useful resources. We will pass this out later. USAJobs, number one. Bureau of Labor Statistics has a really cool career outlook section that you can just see in general, not just for government jobs, but other things. Oh yes, Tina, thank you. If you're in another country and something is legal there, if it's federally illegal here, please don't do it. Definitely applies to a lot of different substances as well as other activities. So just keep your nose clean. If the little voice inside your head is saying, this might not be a good idea, trust it. All right, intelligence.gov and intelligencecareers.gov, we spoke about that. FedScope is a cool data source if you're into data. OPM.gov is where, if you really want to know the ins and outs of the laws that govern everything I talked about in the last hour or so, OPM.gov is where you have it all. And including something that we call like federal career families. So like if you're interested in like, I'm a computer scientist, what types of jobs are in computer science, or I'm a social scientist, you can see like what the job family, what we call job families are. There's a help center for USAJobs.gov that has really good information, as do the OPM webinars. There's one coming up that should be in my newsletter. I just saw it's like in October, and it's essentially OPM's version of a training like this. And oh, I'm sorry, there's repeats on here. And then some non-government resources that are great. Best places to work at .org. Go Government, which I did go over last week, but this is a great resource if you're just getting started in your federal search. And then federalnewsnetwork.com, if like I said, you're trying to understand like current trends in the news and like what's going on. Federal News Network has a lot of really good information on like what's going on from the policy side of things. Some of it can be super, super wonky. In my last job working in a think tank, I was on here like every day, multiple times a day. But there's good information here about like what people in agencies who are in charge of setting policy are worried about, everything from technology to human resources, pay and benefits, all of it's up here. So, all right. And then, yeah, I have the government, nonprofit, and education newsletter. You can also sign up for if you don't already. Yes, I will be emailing out this PowerPoint. I have a few changes. I just want to check some links that were broken. But I will be emailing this out. The video will be posted at some point. It's going to take a little bit, but I'll do my best to try and get that email out to you all in the next little bit with at least the PowerPoint. But yeah, that is everything. We got a few minutes for questions. All right. Yeah, happy to have some of our master's students on here. Thank you. And Tina, did you want to put your email in the chat? I apologize. You caught me. I did not quite finish this. Does somebody else have a question? Michelle, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question, that's fine.
Thanks, Beth. Thank you so much, Beth, Tina. I appreciate this. I am curious, how do you suggest one finds out the best way to figure out where they belong? I'm interested in international development. I'm the one with a little bit more experience behind me, but 4 years out of my last graduate program. I have 2 graduate programs. But I'm willing to do internships to figure out like what ship to be on, if that makes sense, and get right sized from there. So FBI.
Yeah, I would suggest going to the best places to work rankings and doing research. Like you could do like, if you go to the agency subcomponent section and you just do like a control F for like international or development or like certain keywords, you can see which different agencies, in addition to the big ones like state and USAID or the International Trade Administration, those might be some, or like we said, the Development Finance Corporation totally does not even sound like the name of an agency, sounds like a company.
Right.
But I would say really poking around in there.
And
in the best places to work and seeing, or even if there's like some smaller offices within other agencies that work in this area. So you see a lot of that in like Treasury, parts of commerce get into like international issues. USDA has, so there's the Foreign Service Office, but like USDA has the international, I'm blanking on the name. Tina, I might need your help. What is it called? Foreign Agriculture Service. They have the Foreign Agriculture Service that does work alongside folks who are at embassies and whatnot. But that would be the best place. When it comes to like which job families to check out, the Go Government website has a cool tool where they have career guides, and you can look at like where are other people with different backgrounds similar to yours. So like if you look at like maybe social sciences, or maybe we're looking at working abroad, you can look at like some of the different agencies with employees working abroad, and this might be able to give you a start. Or if you're like social sciences, you can see top agencies with people in social sciences and where they work, and like percentages. And then it gives you over here what these are called are job series codes. So while like, occasionally I have seen a posting for like an anthropologist or an archaeologist, and these are people who are like, going to sites like Jamestown or something and actually doing like active work with like National Park Service, usually don't have job positions that sound like your majors, but you have what these job series codes are. So like it might be social science or foreign affairs or international relations. So gogovernment.org is a great place to try and find under their career guides, like where might you fit.
That's very helpful. Thank you so much, Beth.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, yep. Thank you, Tina, for putting in tg636@georgetown.edu. And that's too, like, if you folks want more information on what these job families are, that's where if we go to like opm.gov, you can find everything. You can even find pay scales. This is all open knowledge to the public. You can see right here, they're like, hey, we're hiring related to the COVID-19 pandemic. Look at this. But they have information here on job seekers and looking at like federal hiring questions. And you can look at like, I think it's job families. Yep, Handbook of Occupational Groups and Families. This is huge, but like you can just get a sense of like these are the titles that are available in the federal government. You will not find like it's not like industry where they have these like really awesome sounding like UX UI designer or like, you know, international relations analyst positions. Like it's these really, really, really broad families of jobs that they have. Some of which reflect what government used to be a very clerical type of role. But you can see like some of the ones our students looking at are like business and industry, information technology. This 300 level general administrative clerical and office services group sounds boring, but actually within that there's this whole field called project management, which is like a catch-all for like a lot of actually really, really cool jobs. So yeah, don't judge a job in USAJobs based on its title because it's often really boring. All right. Anything else, folks? All right, well, we are at 2 o'clock, so I am going to go ahead and let y'all go, but thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you.